If a photon is fortunate enough to create an electron from its energy, this electron is called a photoelectron. If the photoelectron emerges with all the energy of the photon, then the photon disappears. I call this a photoelectron. If this interaction creates a gap in the patient's body, will this photon have an effect or presence? No, it will be absorbed in the patient's body, right? Correct. Correct. So this is the first photon, which likely experienced the photoelectric effect with the patient's body and did not reach the crystal or exit the patient's body at all. Now, another photon was lucky and managed to pass through. What is its energy? 140 keV. So, a third photon undergoes Compton scattering. What does Compton mean? It means it interacts with the outer shell of the last electron, knocking it out and giving it energy. The photon itself experiences scattering, so I called it a scattered photon. Is that clear? This scattered photon can pass through the skin, right? We said that's incorrect, but its energy will be low. It won't be 140 keV. It will definitely be less because it gave part of its energy to the electron. So it has some energy left, right? Now, I want to tell you that what will reach the crystal can either be a photon with 140 keV or a photon coming with energy less than 140 keV, right? So we understand what is coming out of the patient and heading towards the crystal, right? Doctors, right, right, great. So, one source is fine. Everything is okay. The crystal is connected directly. Another one experienced scattering with the patient. Someone might come at an angle, for example, and create a penetration spot. The point here is that when the crystal is reached, it will interact with the crystal as well. Pay attention. This part is important. I told you there are two types of interactions, either the photoelectric effect or Compton. Which one has the higher intensity or higher percentage of occurrence? The photoelectric effect. This does not prevent a part from undergoing Compton scattering inside the ideal scintillator. So you will find that there is a spectrum. This spectrum represents the relationship between the energy absorbed in the crystal and the relative number of counts, meaning the intensity, which is the number of photons representing that energy. They found that a large portion of the photons that interacted carried an energy of 140 keV. And there is a part called the Compton edge or Compton band or Compton plateau. This part consists of the photons that underwent Compton scattering, but their intensity is weak, meaning their number is not large, while the part with high intensity, which is around 140, is the one that underwent the photoelectric effect. So the spectrum appeared in this way, indicating that the signal you will receive is either coming from the Compton effect. Either the signal coming in at 140 is the one that interacted with the light and the crystal. As a gamma camera, I can do detection. Should I work with the 140 or should I work on the computer? They said no. Work on the photopeak. Why? Because it has high intensity, meaning a larger number, so you can achieve a shorter scan time and also give you more resolution. If it does something called pulse height analyzer, so the pulse height analyzer, what is it? It tells you that when the signal comes to you, this signal first comes from the photomultiplier tube. The photomultiplier tube receives it and sends it to something where the pulse coming from the photomultiplier tube is converted from analog form to digital form through the analog to digital converter. It starts doing something called positioning. What does positioning mean? It means determining where this signal is coming from, and it sends it to something called the positioning circuit or XY positioning circuit. The role of this circuit is to determine the location of the photon in the X direction and in the Y direction. Then it does something else called Z, which is to see the energy of the signal, how much its energy is. So, you will enter a positioning circuit to determine the location of the signal and know how much energy the signal has. Now, what will you do with the energy of this signal? It tells you that I will use the pulse height analyzer. The pulse height analyzer is here at this time. If the signal is coming, its energy is low, I will not accept it. Even if its energy is very high, I still won't take it. I will choose a specific window. This window is the only one I will work with. This is plus or minus 20% of your photo peak. What is this photo peak? As I mentioned, I want plus or minus, and they do it at 10%. So, I will take 140, plus 10% above it, and minus 10% below it from this value. This is all I will take with me for detection. How does this work with the pulse height analyzer? If a signal comes in above 140, I will not accept it. If it comes in below, I also will not accept it. So, you have completely removed the scattered signals coming to you through the pulse height analyzer. This window of 10% that we are talking about. Sometimes two signals come in one after the other in a short time, and they overlap, giving you a signal like this. I also do not want that. So the signal that came from there, I do not want it either. I want what? I want you to be this function. This function. If we talk about I stand here at this very moment, and hopefully, God willing, next time we will talk about image formation and the image display. And types of imaging are planar imaging, dynamic and gated imaging, God willing. In list mode and frame mode, we will, God willing, try to complete nuclear imaging in the next 2 lectures on Friday and Saturday as planned. After that, we will move on to acquisition mode and planar imaging. We will also try to manage our time a bit better. As you are aware, we need to finish on time, God willing. Good God willing, good God willing. That is God willing, God willing.